I mean, really, my first major cassette tape that I got was Born in the USA. And I got it in my stocking for Christmas. It's what I wanted in '84. And then that was it. But then, so I loved Bruce as a 7 or 8 year old. And then a couple of years go by, and when you're a child, a couple of years is a long time. And then Tunnel of Love comes out, and it was so different from Born in the USA. I still loved the hits that came off of it, but I didn't quite understand what the album was about.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Set Listing Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, and joining me tonight is another of sports announcers and sports reporters joining me, but I am so happy it isn't a middle-aged white guy.
It's a middle-aged white girl.
Jamie Say, welcome to the podcast.
Jesse, it's so nice to be with you. Thank you. This is my first Bruce podcast, but it's an honor to be talking to you and talking about Bruce and the E Street Band.
Well, I am looking forward to just talking about your journey. I do think it's funny. I've had multiple people say that, if especially in the Northeast, man, if you're a sports writer, you can almost count on your byline. You're going to be a Springsteen fan.
It's funny how it works out that way. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in the Northeast. I work down in Florida now, in Orlando.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy how many sports writers and sports journalists love Bruce Springsteen, especially obviously from the Northeast. I mean, but you meet people from all over who love him. But yeah, sports writers from the Northeast, and journalists all love Bruce.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is, but
well, I love it. And I think it's great. And yeah, I've been lucky enough, Jamie, to have people from all over the world join me. And it's just amazing, to throw in the sports analysis. I was talking to someone recently about differences, and I said that it is hilarious how many Giants and Jets and Eagle fans will I can't believe I'm friends with a Cowboy fan. And I go, Springsteen overrides everything else, right? Everything else.
For sure. I am a huge New York Yankees fan. And one of my favorite shows was when he played Fenway Park.
Sure.
In Boston. I loved going over there. And, thinking about it, maybe one of the reasons why sports journalists love Springsteen so much is because there's so much, at the core of it, we are journalists. Yeah. We try and report real stories, and his writing, his songwriting is just so honest and real. Maybe that's what it is, or maybe the fact that he's such a good traveling companion when you go out on the road. Bruce is so great to take with you. That might be it too. I'm not really sure, but that's kind of what it is for me, I think.
I think so. All right. So tell us a little about yourself before we kick into your musical journey.
Sounds good. I am a child of the 80s. I'm in my mid 40s. I'm a sports reporter for a TV station in Orlando, Florida, at the CBS affiliate in Orlando. I've been a sports reporter and sports anchor since I graduated college in 1998. I went to Syracuse. I'm really an upstate New Yorker. I was born in Albany, grew up there, and went to Syracuse. And then the first 12 years of my sports reporting career, I worked in upstate New York. And then I moved down because I got a job here in Orlando in 2010, and I've been down here in Florida ever since. I am a huge sports fan, was a big time sports fan growing up. And I also love music too. I'm a fan of pop culture and all that stuff. And really that's all there is to tell about me. I've really been married to my career, and I've really enjoyed it.
That's a lot. My son wanted to ask, what's the difference between a sports director and a sports anchor?
Well, the sports director is a sports anchor.
Yes,
pretty
that's
much.
what I thought. But
yeah, so a sports director is the sports anchor. It just means that I kind of coordinate all of our coverage. We have a team of 3 sports anchors / reporters at my station, and I coordinate our coverage. That means I'm kind of the anchor that does Monday through Friday, although my schedule is Tuesday through Saturday because we do a Saturday night sports show, but I'm the one on the anchor desk most of the time. But really what it is, I coordinate our coverage. I figure out how we're going to do things, what we're going to do, stuff like that.
So why a Saturday night show? Because Dallas, they do the Sunday night show.
This was just something from upstairs from my boss. He wanted to do a Saturday, but also, here in Florida, Dallas, it makes sense for Sunday, right? Because you guys are an incredible sports city. Orlando is a great sports city in a fabulous sports state. Mm-hmm. But, the number one sport in Florida is college football. Yeah. So it kind of makes sense for us on Saturday.
Okay. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah. So that's kind of why, we travel with the Florida Gators from time to time with the UCF Knights. UCF is in Orlando. Okay. And they're an up and coming college football team. We've done a lot with them, cover Florida State, Miami Hurricanes. So that's why we do Saturday instead of Sunday.
That makes a lot of sense. I grew up in Louisiana, and my dad was in the Army. We moved around a lot, but by the time I settled into high school, I was in Louisiana. And so when I moved to Dallas, in Louisiana, there's really only one university. It's LSU. There's all these others, but my favorite joke is half of the LSU fans didn't graduate from high school, much less LSU.
I gotcha.
And so when I moved to Dallas, it was this whole UT and A&M and Baylor's and Texas Tech, this whole, at the time it was Southwest Conference rivalry. And then when you think about it, I imagine, Florida has to be, don't just have one major school. You have tons of major football. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. The Florida Gators are the most popular football team in the state, no question. Okay. And then I would go with Miami Dolphins, Buccaneers, Florida State Seminoles next. Okay. Somewhere there. But like UCF is on the rise. Florida State a couple of years ago when they were that national championship team under Bobby Bowden, it was right up there. They've had some tough times. But yeah, it's fun. And then South Florida is definitely Miami Hurricane country. Yeah, for sure. South Florida. Sure. The Florida Gators just kind of canvassed the entire state, but that makes sense. UCF has really taken over, our region, the Orlando area, because it's won some really big games. Yeah. So it's fun.
And so was it a lot of fun having Brady and he's coming back?
Oh yeah. It's, you go from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Jameis Winston. Now, Jameis was interesting to follow because he was a Florida State Seminole. Yeah. And, there were always storylines with him. But it was a losing franchise for so long. And then all of a sudden, the greatest, most successful football player of all time comes and signs with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah. And boom, Super Bowl year 1. And, they contended in year 2. And then he's coming back for year 3. And they're, one of the favorites in the NFC. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, the rise in popularity, of Buccaneer fans because of people who love Tom Brady, or just kind of the resurgence of Buccaneers fans, because
Sure.
the NFL teams down here in Florida have gone through some tough times.
Right.
It's been a long time since the Dolphins, really contended for the East, and the Jaguars have been downtrodden for much of this century. They've had a couple of good spots. And the Buccaneers, after they won that Super Bowl with Warren Sapp and company, I mean, it was just year after year of really tough seasons. So now it's like, oh my gosh, Tom Brady's here. It's awesome. I mean, it's awesome. And then the fact that the only thing that was a bummer was the fact that, COVID impacted that Super Bowl so much.
Yeah, that is sad.
Yeah.
I promise listeners we're going to get to music in just a moment. I'm a big I'm a big fan of the sports radio, and I'm in Dallas, so I listen to The Ticket. Awesome. And they talk a lot about, that to them, right, just having something to talk about is amazing, right? Like they were talking today about the Dallas mayor, like, oh, Dallas is big enough to have 2 pro teams.
I saw that. Yeah.
And they're first off, Jerry would never allow that, right? Like, no way Jerry Jones is going to allow that. But they start talking about it. How fun, which training camp would we go to? Would we do a pre and post game if it was the Dallas Jaguars? And they just they had all this fun about, like, let's make this happen just for us. So
they're looking at New York and LA, and I mean, and I mean, right now with LA, it's just kind of beginning that they have 2 teams. So I mean, Texas just keeps growing, and but Jerry would never let that fly. I don't know about another pro team, because I'm sure the Houston Texans have a major fan base in Houston.
They do.
But it's got to be completely cowboy country the rest of the.
It is, despite 26 years of mediocrity, but yes.
Yeah, but just, I mean, all around this country, there are cowboy fans. I mean, because like, if you look at the makeup of our station, I would say, the people that I work with, we are all different. We've got Patriot fans. We've got one Bills fan, which is me. Yeah. We've got one Jags fan, a few Buccaneers fans, and then we have Dallas fans.
Oh, how funny.
So it's just cowboy fans are all over the place. Like in New York State, Dallas fans, I mean, the folks that, the people that were, kids or teenagers in the 70s, and then during those 90s dynasty, dynasty.
It was fun when we were figuring out a day, and you had said, hey, Mondays are my days off. And I was like, you really want to spend your day off talking Bruce? And you said, yeah. So we were going to do last Monday. And it was so great because I went, well, I'm probably going to watch the Mavs break my heart. And you immediately, oh, is it Luka playing? So it was nice to have that shorthand.
Of course.
So, he's something special.
Yes.
Yeah, that's.
He's amazing. He's fun to watch. I'm not a Mavs fan, but he's fun to watch. I mean, like, I love the NBA. I can't really root. I do pull for the Orlando Magic because it's our team.
Yeah, you've got to.
And like, we're just hoping here in Central Florida that a Luka comes along for the Orlando Magic, or, I mean, because he was a can't miss, really.
Yeah, and then what was amazing is he was better than we thought he was going to be. All right, he's just been amazing. So it's been fun. Okay, thanks. That was our little sports catch up. Okay. Thank you, Jamie. I always like to start at the beginning. Tell me, you grew up you said northern upper New York. Yep. What kind of music did your family listen to? What were your musical roots?
Okay. So, I would say, probably pop music, top 40. Again, I'm a child of the 80s. I was born in 76. So I am of the MTV generation. My parents, we would listen to whatever top 40 was on the car radio or on the clock radio when they would get up in the morning. My dad had a stereo. He had a huge record collection. Bob Dylan, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, but also some Kenny Rogers in there, some Glenn Campbell.
Yes.
he had some 8 tracks. I remember he had the Back in Black 8-track too, but just basically whatever was on the radio from year to year to year. That's what we would listen to as a family for sure, pop music and everything. And then, once you kind of establish your identity as a kid, by the time you're, gosh, I think I probably was buying my first cassette tapes, when I was 7 or 8 years old, when you're starting, when Michael Jackson came out with Thriller, everybody went out and got that. But I mean, really, my first major cassette tape that I got was Born in the USA.
Yeah.
I got it in my stocking for Christmas. It's what I wanted in '84. And then that was it. But then, so I loved Bruce as a 7 or 8 year old.
Right.
And then, a couple of years go by, and when you're a child, a couple of years is a long time. And then Tunnel of Love comes out, and it was so different from Born in the USA. I still loved the hits that came off of it, but I didn't quite understand what the album was about when I was, 9 or 10 years old. But anyway, as a teenager, I became more interested in classic rock. I loved Pink Floyd, British Invasion, big time. My first concert was the Kinks. Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, Rolling Stones, Eric Clapton. So that's what I listened to a lot in high school. And then college is a lot of alternative. And then really just kind of rediscovered Bruce.
So I was going to ask you that. Yeah, I was going to ask you that, Jamie. First off, I love that you kind of went off in your own way. We've talked a lot about this on the podcast, that most people have to have their heart broken a few times before they get Tunnel of Love.
Yes.
Right. Or have been married for a long time.
Yeah.
So how did you rediscover Bruce, and what about him spoke to you? What did you go, oh, I remember my old friend? Or
yeah, I mean, the Born in the USA album was always very special to me. I mean, it was my favorite cassette, throughout the 80s for sure. And it always meant so much. And then Tunnel of Love came out, and I loved the title track, Brilliant Disguise, One Step Up, but I didn't buy the tape. But it was funny. I was in college in the mid 90s, and I was actually out on a date with a boy I really liked. And we went and saw Shawshank Redemption. And on the way back, we're in his car, and Brilliant Disguise comes on the radio. This was like 1994. And, it was such a good date, good time. And that song comes on, and you're just totally in the moment. I'm like, gosh, I love this song. What a great song. I can't believe I haven't listened to Bruce in so long. So that became my favorite Bruce song, Brilliant Disguise. And then, he came out with, I did like Human Touch when he came out, but I didn't buy the album. But it wasn't really until, like a decade or so later, when I finally saw my first Springsteen concert. Okay. And I didn't go to a ton of concerts in college because I didn't have any money. And then when you get your first job in broadcasting, you don't have any money at all.
Yes.
And you're focused on work. So I really didn't go to many concerts at all.
Right.
And then I saw Springsteen on the Seeger Sessions tour. And it was a lot of fun. It was an outdoor venue.
Was that your first show?
It was my first show. Okay. It was a Seeger Session show. I was like, okay, I finally seen Bruce. This is cool. It's not,
it's not the E Street Band, but
it's not the E Street Band. And of course, I love The Rising, and I love what The Rising was about. Yeah. Just living in New York at the time, not in New York City, but living in the state. Sure. But anyway, finally, I was working in Albany, and Springsteen was coming to play at the arena there. I'm like, I have to go see Springsteen. And a friend of mine was friends with the GM of the arena, So we got incredible seats. And by song number 1 or 2, that was it. It was 2009, and that was it. That was it for me. It was like, oh my gosh, look what I've been missing. I can't believe I've been missing this. So then after that show in Albany.
So hang on, I want to just that's what's hilarious or what touches me is real quick, because my listeners have heard the stories a lot, but right, like I remember, like I was born in 59, so I graduated high school in 77. So, I vaguely, I remember The River and Hungry Heart. I, like everyone else, Born in the USA, Ton of Love. I bought the box set, but I was never a crazy fan. And then The Rising happened, and that appearance on that Friday night where they did My City of Ruins,
Yes.
And then you're like, oh my goodness. So my first show was a Rising show in 2002. Awesome. And I said, I think there's two kinds of people, Jamie, the people that go to their first E Street show and go, boy, that was long. And then the others that say, oh my goodness, what have I been missing? And just like when your football team misses an extra point, they feels like they chase that the whole game, even though they shouldn't, but it is. I feel like someone like yourself and I, who didn't see Bruce till like the 2000s, we're chasing. We're like, oh, I have to make up all these shows I didn't get to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because like 4 days later, after that Albany show, I got tickets off StubHub to go to Washington, D.C. to see it, because that was one of the next places he was playing. I said to my friend, hey, you want to go to D.C.? Okay. So we went to Washington, D.C. And then that tour, it was the Working on a Dream tour. I saw him I think 5 times or 6 times or something like that.
Yeah.
After all that. And it was unbelievable. And then the other thing that was big too was the fact that there's E Street Radio on Siriusxm.
Yes.
I had let my XM subscription run out.
Yeah.
Because I got it when it was first coming around. So I had this old XM transmitter or whatever it's called, whatever the technology is called. So I let the subscription run out. Then I hear, there's an E Street channel. So I just turn it back on to get the phone number to resubscribe. Yeah. Turns out it never shut off. so I get it to channel 20 on E Street Radio, and I have free XM for however many years I had that car. So that was another big thing too, because it delves, into everything. It plays everything. So that was it. It was 2009, and that's been it.
I always like to preface this. You've kind of shared already that the amount of times you've seen Bruce perform live is no way a fair barometer of how big of a fan you are. Similar to there are people that have never gone to a pro football game or a college game in person, but are massive, bleed the colors. Have you counted the amount of times you've seen him live?
I think it's 27 or 28 now.
Okay.
It's one of the two, because sometimes I might double count one when I'm counting them on my hands, or I might forget one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think 27 or 28 times I've seen him now. So which is nowhere near the 200 that.
No, yeah, I know that some of them are. It's funny too, because I'll have people from other, in June, I'm planning to do a whole series of episodes with other music podcasts. So I had just a wonderful old friends. They've known each other since the 3rd grade, that are Daryl Hall and John Oates fans. And they do a Daryl Hall and John Oates podcast. And they were like, really? There's been people that have seen him over 100 times? I was like, trust me. Yeah, there are. Anyway.
Because every show is different.
It is. And that's what I was
you
explaining to
know?
him. So there
Yeah.
is a wonderful website, especially you being into sports, My Boss Time. I don't know if you've heard of
Okay.
it, but if you go to
I'm
My
writing it down.
Boss Time, you can create a free account and then it has every show he's ever performed. And so when you select it, it behind the scenes will tell you, here are your most heard songs. Here are your most recent. Here are these were personal premieres for you. These
I
were,
love it.
yeah. So it is a rabbit hole that you will go, oh yes. My
All
friend
right.
who loves Dylan said, I wish someone would do this for Dylan for that very same reason. Um, do you have you gone back and explored all the past albums or
Yeah. I mean, now I have, there are some that I'm missing. I don't have the Magic album,
yeah,
not because I don't want to get it, but because I can listen to it on,
sure,
because E Street Radio plays it. But yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I've got, I've got most of them. I don't have. Yeah, I think, you know what? I think Magic and the Seeger sessions, Devils and Dust,
yeah,
Goes to Tom Joad. I don't have those. But everything else I have. But yeah, that first year, that 2009, boom, went right back into it.
yeah,
With, when I knew Born in the USA by heart, but
sure,
then it was just like, okay, let's revisit Born to Run. I knew the hits that came off of it: Born to Run, 10th
yeah,
Avenue Freeze Out, Thunder Road, Badlands.
sure,
I'm sorry, Badlands isn't Born to Run,
yeah,
but those songs. So let's go back and revisit it. And it's just like, okay.
yeah,
Fell in love with the song Night. Obviously, Jungle Land's amazing. Backstreets. And then, I got the live album, 1975 to 85, and then Darkness on the Edge of Town, and then Greetings, and then River double album. So, the Wild, the Innocent, I got them all. And then MTV Plugged In, all of
yeah,
that stuff. Yeah. So, and just each time I would listen, especially to the old stuff, it would blow my mind.
sure,
Darkness on the Edge of Town, I think, is my favorite album. So I went right back into it. And then, The Rising is such a special album too.
yeah.
Because of the subject and everything.
So Jamie, did you get a chance to see him on Broadway?
Yeah, I did actually. I've seen him. I've seen his Broadway show 3 times.
Oh,
And,
tell me.
Okay, so yeah, and each time was awesome. So the first time, you got the lottery, and you just hoped your number was going to be picked to get to go see the show. Right. That first time. So I picked a day, and I think it was like a month and a half into it, and I got right in there, and I ended up being able to get front row seats to it. So it was unbelievable. Like, I felt like there was some heavenly interference or something like that. Like,
sure.
somebody was upstairs was on my side. So I wasn't center orchestra, but I was off to the left and the front row, and it was just amazing. And then, he announced that he'd extend his show into the summer. So I got cheaper seats, but I was like, I got to go back. But this time, my friend and I went in, and I'm like, let's wait outside. So we waited outside 4 hours before the show so I could get his autograph.
Okay.
So I got a Born to Run album autograph. So that was show number 2. And then I just saw him again last summer because he revived it to help revive Broadway.
Yeah.
And it had been so long since I had seen him. I'm like, all right, well, I was back home visiting family anyway. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be in New York State anyway. Let's make it happen. So then I went for a 3rd time, and just to get my Bruce fix, and it's just awesome.
Did you have a preference of, because he changed it the 2nd time? I only saw the 1st. I didn't get to see the 2nd. Did you have a preference?
I think they were, maybe I would say maybe the second time out of the three was my favorite, just because I soaked it in. Like, I was definitely in the moment for show number one, but I was also in a little bit of disbelief about how awesome it was. And you're just like, okay, you know, you're trying to take it all in, but I don't know, but like maybe the second time, just because you knew it was coming up. And I think, I'm not sure if it was by that time I had gotten the CD of it. So you kind of knew, and it was just like, oh, you're just savoring everything. And then the third time was great too. You know, like, I mean, I think, you know, cause he added, you know, a song from Letter to You, and he changed it up a little bit. So, and he did Fire. Yeah, that's right. He did Fire, and I had never seen him perform Fire live. So that was really cool. You know, also depends on the company. You know, I went with 3 different people, and you know, so that kind of changes it. But I would say the second time that I saw it was like, okay. I was on cloud 9 because I had gotten his autograph.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
bet.
But it was just like, okay. So yeah, but
did you was that the first chance you'd had to meet him, or
that was it. I mean, like I've been in the front row before, you know, at shows and stuff, but that was the first time that it was like, okay, you know, and really it wasn't much of an interaction. You know, he gets out of the vehicle and he makes his way down the line, but you know, my friend and I had gotten there early enough that we were right up there, and so it was just kind of, again, like, take your breath away kind of moments, or hold your breath. It's like, oh my gosh, there he is. He's going to sign this. What do I do? What do I say? So when he gets to my album, I'm like, all right, what do I do? So I just say, thank you for everything. Okay. And he just looked up at me and nodded his head. And, you know, we made eye contact, which was great. And then he moved on to the next person. So it was just a moment, one that I'll never forget. But yeah, that was really cool.
I was lucky enough to get he did a book signing in Austin. And so I drove down, you know, stood in line and got my, you know, 6 seconds with him, you know, because he didn't sign the books in front of you. They were already pre-signed, but you got a photo with him. And so I have 2, because they're click. There's one of us looking out and the other one, me, you know, staring at him. You know, and so I got my little, you know, 7 or 8 seconds with him. So that was awesome. Cool. Yeah, that was very cool.
Yeah.
Any other stories from shows you want to share? Anything else memorable?
Well, yeah, like, I mean, you know, like every show is different. Right. And a lot of it is just, you know, the performance of his performance, the stuff that he cranks out, you know, but also, you know, some of my favorite times are, you know, I've been to shows going solo, you know, just went by myself. There's a show in Fort Lauderdale in 2014. You know, I just went by myself and I met new friends, you know, and we still keep in touch. And they made, you know, we were waiting in line to get our bracelets, and, you know, we had floor seats, waiting in line to get our bracelets. Hopefully we get in the lottery, so we get in the pit, and we did, and we all did it together. And it was just, those friends are just unbelievable. And it was a great show too. He did Hearts of Stone. Linda Let Me Be the One in that one. He did a wonderful version. Oh gosh, yeah, it was awesome. He did a great and one of my friends made a sign and he played it. She requested Boom Boom and he played it. And he did a great version of Save My Love, which is a great song. Yeah. And he was rocking his guitar on our side of the stage too. So it was right there. So that was awesome. Like, yeah, just he, you know, and he always brings it when he comes to Albany too. I've seen him in Albany, I think 3 times, and they're all really unique, great shows. And the crowd is awesome in Albany. like, so if, if there's any Northeasterners, Albany's easy to get to. Go to a
Sure.
show in Albany because it's really, really good. And yeah, just a bunch of them. I mean,
Sure.
and
What's
yeah.
what's the furthest you've traveled to see him?
So I saw him in Paris
Oh,
in
wow.
2013. Yeah, in Paris in 2013. And then I saw him in Glasgow, Scotland in 2016.
Wow.
Yeah, so the Paris show, I went by myself. I just went to Paris by myself and just for a little adventure. And the focal point was his show. And that was interesting because I wanted to experience a European show, and I was down, in the pit for that one. And, Europeans taking a show different than Americans, they are part of it. It was like,
Yeah.
so I'm in the pit, and whatever side of the stage Bruce was on, that's the way we were going. Cause you were like pushed and everything. I mean, it was just all this exuberance and everybody's, just on top of each other and stuff. And it was a lot of fun. And I didn't know exactly how the wristband situation worked for Europe, and I
Sure.
missed out on it, but I waited outside. It was in a soccer stadium, Stade France. It's like the main soccer stadium in Paris. But I got there at like 8 a.m. just because I didn't know what the protocol was to get a wristband. And
Right.
I guess they had given them out the night before.
Okay.
So, but I didn't know that. But anyway, so then after that, it's first come, first serve. So I was out in front of the stadium all day with a bunch of, people who spoke French, and I didn't, but
Yeah.
It was fun. But the cool thing was I was around for the sound check. I could hear the sound check.
Oh, fun.
And that was really neat. And then another cool part of it was, they let the people in who are on the floor or on the field. And Bruce came out early and did a preset of like 3 or 4 songs. And one of them was Burning Love by Elvis. And it was amazing.
Nice.
And Lucille by BB King, and This Hard Land. And it was
nice.
just a preset. And it was super casual. It was just him and his guitar. And then by the end of that night, I was exhausted.
Yeah, I bet.
But that was cool.
How was
really
Glasgow?
Cool. It was neat. It was a different type of crowd. I mean, it felt like it was another soccer stadium. I think the people there were much more casual fans than the passionate fans that were in Paris. It was definitely different. I think he did the Born in the USA album there.
Okay.
From what I remember. But it was funny. Like I went with a friend, and he and I get off the plane, and the show was that night. So we get off the plane, we check in to our hotel, and then the stadium wasn't that far. So we walked to the stadium and just wait to try and get wristbands and everything. We end up in the pit, but it was like, we had just I flew from Orlando to Toronto, and then to Nova Scotia, and then to Glasgow.
Wow.
And then we go to our hotel. Then we walk to the soccer stadium, and we're just outside for hours and hours, hoping to get wristbands. We do, and then we're right there. So that was a long day too, but it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day. Scotland's a wonderful country, with wonderful people. And it was just a different vibe. Like, I don't think they were much more casual than, so like I would say, from what I remember from that show, he didn't do super deep cuts from it. It was still great, but it wasn't super deep.
So when, I had this similar experience when he played the NCAA festival, when it was here at Jerry World, and they broadcast live, right? So so I was at that show, and and the Dallas Morning News writer, the music critic at the time, said that because they expected a lot bigger crowds, and it rained and it was cold, so they didn't have that big of a crowd, but there were a lot of casual fans. It's the only time, well, twice I've heard Glory Days twice. Once was at this, and I felt like he specifically was like, I know a lot of people are just casual fans, so I'm not going to go a lot of deep cuts.
Yeah.
And then the other time was when Bon Jovi was playing in Dallas the next night, and Bon Jovi joined him on stage and they did Glory Days together. So, so that was, so I did feel like that, hey, I kind of know my audience, so I'm going to do this, have a little bit of fun with it. So
yeah, that's how I felt about the Glasgow show. But it was cool to be there.
Oh, I bet.
And the country was great. So you got to see him do Jump live.
I did. And it was so funny, Jamie, because I'm sitting there, and there, it's in a field, and I decided I'm not a pit person. I don't like the crowdedness.
Oh yeah, and I don't blame you. Don't like it was claustrophobic in a soccer stadium in Paris.
Oh, I bet. So what I ended up doing is going, and I got, kind of near the sound booth where I could lean against, a bar, kind of this gate. So anyway, so when he comes out, and it's the Sweet Georgia Brown, and, and him and Niels do the jump, and they, the jump ball with Kevin being the referee, and then they start jump. I grabbed my phone, and on Twitter, I said, okay, who had jump on their bracket, and I got tons of people like, Bruce busting rack brackets, in this thing. But it was, I noticed you have a picture of a horse race behind you, of a horse. And
and then underneath is my Springsteen on Broadway poster.
So you thought that the Kentucky Derby, as we record this, was a long shot. Bruce playing a Van Halen song was on no one's card.
Well, that was awesome. And, Tom Morello was with him for that one, right?
Yes, he was. Yes.
Yeah. And I loved his influence in 2014, how they did all those different covers.
Yes.
I loved it.
And I loved watching, I know, because, just like there's whiny sports fans, there's whiny Springsteen fans, like, oh, we don't need Tom Morello, Niels can play anything we need or something. I just looked at Morello and the joy on his face, like, oh yeah, I can't believe I'm doing this, right?
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, it's just kind of like a once in a blue moon kind of thing, the tour. It's like, wow, Tom Morello is an incredible guitarist, and he just makes it sound a little bit different, it's just a variation on some great music. And then it allows the E Street Band to do different things, just like, in 2012 when they had the big horn section.
Yes.
And the percussion, when Everett Bradley and the backups and, the more backup singers, it's just, I loved it. I love it when he would do things differently too.
Jamie, that when I first started, I've been doing the podcast about 5-6 years. And back then one of the questions I would ask is, do you rather the core E Street Band or the E Street Orchestra, right? Because you had the backup horn, because it was right after he'd lost Clarence. So you had the backup singers, you had the horns, and I said, if I had my choice, I'd take the orchestra, because I just loved all the different things they could do. Not that there's anything wrong with just the E Street Band, which is still 10 people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've never really even thought about it. I always just kind of took it in as, all right, this is what he's doing for this tour, and it's going to be awesome. But yeah, I mean, I think back to 2012 with the orchestra and how much
Wrecking Ball tour. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I remember, it was awesome. It was the first show that I saw on that tour was in Tampa.
Yeah.
And they did Does This Bus Stop at 82nd Street. And I just remember basically the bongo break from Everett Bradley. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
It's just so unique. And it's happening, it doesn't happen all the time. So, I mean, I take either. I mean, I love
Yeah,
the E Street Band.
sure.
Just whatever he wants to do is fine with me because I know it's going to be awesome.
Right there with you.
Yeah.
What I did think was interesting, and I'd love your thoughts on this, is, I bought the No Nukes, right? So I'm putting in the DVD to watch the film, and I'm like, wow, there's not that many people on stage. That was my first thought, right? Because there's no Patty, there's no Niels, it's just like, wow.
It's like, what, 5 or 6 people?
Yes. Versus, now then with, Susie and, and everything. Yeah. This little Steven and Niels, that's great.
It's so funny.
So what were your thoughts? You mentioned your parents loved Glenn Campbell. What were one of your fans? What were your thoughts on Western Stars and Letter to You?
Loved it. I love both of them.
Yeah.
I love Western Stars start to finish, and I love the film that went with it. It was so touching.
It was.
And it's so different, but God, I mean, just like, it's interesting. It's just how he writes about time of life. How he equates it with time of life, and I just love the sound of Western Stars. It's mellow. It's melancholy, but it ends, with a happy song and Rhinestone Cowboy. And no, I love Western Stars. Moonlight Motel is beautiful. And then Letter to You is special. It really is special, just because it's about, how things, life and how it comes to an end. And how you lose people and how difficult it is, but to me it's nourishing. Like, I lost my parents both in 2014, so like that album, it was great just to hear a new Springsteen album when it came out, apart from Western Stars that sounded more Springsteen, and he had the E Street Band with him. But it's just special, from, I don't know how to explain it, but I'll See You in My Dreams is, I love that song. It's very touching. I think of my parents all the time whenever I hear it.
When I've often said that Land of Hope and Dreams and Better Days are two of my favorite songs. And I've read Land of Hope and Dreams multiple at different funerals. When I've had to bury a friend, when I buried my father, I quoted Land of Hope and Dreams. And I used to say, and I hope years from now that my son will quote Land of Hope and Dreams at my funeral, though, I'll See You in My Dreams may change that, because the song is so, I had someone right after that came out, Carissa is from the UK. She is Muslim, and she does a podcast all about grief. And as she said that, in her words, with brown people versus, his, whites, Anglo, to the different mournings and the different things. And so her it's a bereavement podcast, and I said, you should really check Letter to You out. And she read it, she listened to it, and she immediately shot me an email and said, oh my God, this is all about grief. Can I come back on the podcast and just talk about this album? I'm like, sure. Yeah. It is, but it's still a joyous album. And
it is.
I'm in Texas, so we'll go just for a minute about political for just a minute. There is a lot of the people in Texas do not align with me politically. I'm typical, as I told someone else, I'm a blueberry in a strawberry patch, right? So, and it will always be special to me because, I used to joke, if we got a new president and a new Springsteen album in the fall of 2020, maybe this would not be the worst year ever. So yeah, so it had
Yeah.
it means a lot to me too. It
Yeah.
still means a lot to me. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And that's why I can't wait for him to go on tour so we can listen to that. And I love the new songs that are on there, but then I love the fact that he went back
Sure.
and dusted off I love the song Janie Needs a Shooter.
Yeah.
Since I've been hearing it on XM, Siriusxm, like that version from 1970, whatever,
Yeah.
I think 73. And now it's on an album, and it's like, oh my gosh, if he plays this in concert.
Yeah.
And then If I Was the Priest.
So if I Was the Priest is, mine, though I do have to tell a story. There is a guy here in Dallas named Norm Hitzges, who's been a sports talk show host for years. And he tells the story, and I remember this when I'm interviewing someone. He said, if you ask Nolan Ryan about his no-hitters, you will get very rote, no energy, polite answers. Ask him about the couple of home runs he hit. His eyes will light up, and he will come alive. So I always think about, what would you talk to people? And if I had a few minutes with Tom Morello, I would tell him that for all the joy you brought me, Tom, you brought one of my biggest live music disappointments. They were in Houston for that High Hopes tour, and on the set list was This Is Your Sword. That was they were going to open with, which is a song I love.
Yep.
I'm chasing. And right when they're walk out, Morella says, hey, we're in Houston. We should open with Seeds. They scratched through the song. Now, the last time he was in Houston, he opened with Seeds. So I was like, no. I've already gotten that check pick. I got this. So I would love to tell Tom that story. And I know he'd look at me, get out of here, kid.
He'd be like, what are you
Houston. Exactly.
No, I'm so sorry that you didn't. I know, what a bummer.
Yeah.
What a bummer. It is funny. It's like, you hear the set list, and then if there was something on that list that's subbed out, it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are there songs you're chasing besides Western Stars and, Letter to You songs?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I love the song Soul Driver.
Oh yeah.
Love it. I love it. And I've seen on YouTube, where he just bare bones it, I think it's just his vocal. Yeah. And it's amazing. So I'd love to see that. Another one is an outtake from the Born in the USA, Janie, Don't You Lose Heart. I've always loved that song. I love how it's so nice and light. I've never seen him play One Step Up, which is one of my favorites from Tunnel of Love.
Now, on the plus side, that night in Houston, that was a sign request. And they did a version. If you go Houston, Texas, 2014, he did a sign request of One Step Up, which was awesome. Amazing. Yeah. So he gives and he takes, right?
Yeah, he does. He does. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff. I'd love to see some of his stuff from The Promise. There's some upbeat stuff, from The Promise. Like Ain't Good Enough for You.
Oh, I love that. That's one of my favorites.
And this one might be too mellow, but the hidden track, The Way.
Oh yeah.
But it might be a little too mellow for one of his shows. But then there's stuff from tracks like Don't Look Back. I'd love to see that. Lonely Night in the Park.
Oh
love to see that. And one sign request that I did, there was that Fort Lauderdale show where he took my friend's sign, Boom Boom, and didn't take mine, Blood Brothers. I haven't seen him do Blood Brothers live. I'd love to see that one.
Good. So what's next for you career-wise? What do you want to do next? What are you hoping for now that things are slightly getting back to normal in the sports world?
Yeah, I love Orlando. I love my job. I love doing what I'm doing. And I love Orlando because it's not like Dallas, you know, which is an incredible sports city, but it's got a good variety of things. You know, we've got the Magic, we've got a Major League Soccer team, we've got a PGA Tour event, we've got NASCAR races over at Daytona, Daytona's like an hour from Orlando. So we cover all their races. So there's a lot of stuff going on. You know, UCF is going into the Big 12. That'll be fun. So basically, my career goal for that is just to get better at my job. But also, like, I've done some radio play-by-play and a little bit of television play-by-play for football. If any more opportunities come up, I jump on that. Like that would be something, you know. I'd love to do some more play-by-play, but I'm really happy in Orlando. And one of the reasons is, like, the atmosphere at my workplace is amazing.
That's awesome.
And you don't always get that. So that's huge.
Is there something you haven't got to cover you want to cover?
You know, like the Olympics are always on a bucket list.
Sure.
Depending on where they are now.
Right.
You know, now, like before, when I was in my 20s, I'd be like, I'll go anywhere.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Now it's like, I don't know. But I've covered some Super Bowls. I've covered NCAA tournaments. Florida is not quite a baseball state. So like, even though Tampa was in the World Series, it was during the pandemic. So, you know, we didn't cover it in person. I've covered a national championship before between Alabama and Clemson when it was in Tampa. I wasn't the sports director at the time when Florida State made the national championship, so I didn't go. I'd love for a Florida team to make that game and cover that. But like I would say, you know, the Olympics would be something, but UCF football making a national championship, it would blow everybody's mind. It's not going to happen anytime soon. But I really like it down here. I really, I like the vibe in Orlando. It's a young city. It's a progressive city in the state of Florida. Yeah, put it that way.
Yeah, so, that's what I said. Trying to stay away from politics a little bit, but yes, it is. Yeah, it is. There are blueberries scattered in the strawberry field.
Yeah.
Is there anything I should have asked you, Jamie, that I haven't?
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot. I thought that was really good.
Oh, good. I hope you had fun.
I did. I had a great time.
So I hope if you are a regular watcher of the WKMG, you've joined this podcast and listened. I think Jamie made you guys proud. I end every podcast with the Mary question. So Jay Armstrong, who is a recently retired English teacher in the Philadelphia area, speaking of a Eagles fan, he would take his honors English class and they would spend 2 days breaking apart Thunder Road. They would look at all the lyrics. They would talk about the themes that Bruce is exploring. They would compare it to Robert Frost and other American poets. And at the end of the 2 days, he asked the question, does Mary get in the car? So Jamie Say, that is your question. Does Mary get in the car at the end of Thunder Road?
I love it. I am going to say, yes, she does. Yes, she gets in the car. And there's a couple of reasons why I think that. Because, and it's from the opening lines of the song, like a vision, she dances across the porch as the radio plays. Well, to me, dancing is kind of an expression of freedom. So I think she's got that vibe. She's no wallflower. She's no homebody. She's going to take that chance. And that's why I think she gets in the car. And I think, you know, Thunder Road is one of Bruce's more romantic and hopeful songs. And I think the hero gets the girl in that song. I think that's the intention. Yes.
Good. So, one of the things because you mentioned it, and someone was telling me about this when he was doing the answer, and he says, you know, in Racing in the Street, when she talks about she sits on her daddy's porch, He says, don't you think
Mm.
that's the same port she's dancing across?
Oh my God.
Yes. I said, absolutely, she is. This is great. Great answer. I appreciate it. By the way, someone else suggested that you mentioned Moonlight Motel. He said that Moonlight Motel is the end of the story, that they get in the car, they drive to California, and now then he is mourning Mary's passing. And that's what Moonlight Motel is about. So
I love it.
if that's not the right answer, I want it to be. Jamie, if someone wants to reach you, what's the best way?
Best way probably on social media, on Twitter.
Okay.
It's just at Jamie Say,
Okay.
JAMIESEH. That's a good way.
Okay.
I've got a Facebook page with News 6, but I can't remember the address offhand.
I'll find it and I'll add it on the show notes.
Yeah, Jamie Say News 6.
Yeah.
Is a Facebook page.
Any final thoughts?
No, I just had a blast. It's been great talking with you, a fellow Springsteen fan. That's the cool thing. I think Springsteen is wonderful, and the community of fans is great too. We really are alike. People are all different, but he brings us together, and I love it. So
I really do. And I get asked every once in a while, Jesse, do you get tired of doing the podcast? And I go, well, sometimes I'm tired. I've had a bad day at work, or it's a long day. I said, but the moment that connection happens and I see the other fan, and within 30 seconds of talking, it all passes away. And I'm just visiting with a new friend.
Absolutely. A new friend that feels like an old friend, because
it does.
Because we've got this same experience. Yeah, it's awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you are so welcome, and I appreciate it. You're welcome anytime. Hey, we'll maybe if a Florida team is playing a Texas team for a national championship, we'll talk.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
You know what? Springsteen goes on tour. Maybe I hit Dallas for one.
Oh, I'd love that. That would
cool.
be awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Listeners, you be safe. Go get vaccinated. Go get boosted. Let's all be kind to each other, because that's how we're going to get through this. Jamie, thank you. Listeners, thank you. We will talk to you soon. Goodbye. I want and need your feedback. You can reach me multiple ways to tell me what you like or don't like about the show. You can reach out to give me guest suggestions, or maybe to join me on the podcast yourself. We're on Twitter at SetListingBruce or at Jesse Jackson DFW. I have an Instagram, SetListingBruce or Jesse Jackson DFW. Our Facebook page, facebook.com/SetListingBruce. Go to patreon.com/SetListingBruce to find out how you can support the show, and we have several tiers of support. Please go to your favorite podcast player and hit subscribe, and tell a friend about the podcast, because that is the way we're going to grow. If you're not tired of hearing me speak, you can hear me on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where Charles Skaggs and I talk all things Doctor Who. The How Many podcast, where me and my friends Gary, Scott, Bob, and Jr. talk pop culture. And finally, my newest podcast, The Last Best Hope for Conversation, a Babylon 5 podcast, where Karen, Lou, and I are going through the TV show Babylon 5 one episode at a time. I am always looking for guests, so please reach out to me, setlustingbruce@gmail.com.
You just heard the fun talking, hard rocking, music loving, album ranking, fan thinking, joy spreading, lyric reading, story sharing podcast that is the one, the only Set Listing Bruce. The theme for Set Listing Bruce was written by David Rosen, used by permission.
and we're out. Great job.
That was awesome, Jesse. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Well, I am so glad
really
you
was.
did. I appreciate it. This will come out probably in about a month. I'm trying to
Cool.
book things in ahead, but I'll let you know in plenty of time.
Nice.
So,
well, I hope in a month's time, the Mavericks are still playing basketball.
I can't believe they're tied. That's what the sports station was saying. We're 2 games away from the championship, and I don't think they're going to beat them. I don't think they'll beat Phoenix, but they sure looked good the past 2 games.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
It's been kind of weird. And you know what? The Hawks made it all the way.
Yeah.
To the Eastern Conference Finals last year, so you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Exactly.
But I'll root for the Mavs.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
problem.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jesse.
Bye-bye.
Bye.